Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it is time for another daily dose of dismal Disney.
I've been itching to get into this one
since
last night.
You're going to have to explain to me what's going on. Time Magazine, Bob Iger, and lies, is that?
Time Magazine is notorious for putting out puff pieces on Bob Iger. It is ridiculous. So yesterday, or the day before, they put out this 5 myths critics get wrong about Bob Iger's performance at Disney. And of course, it's from Time Magazine. Time Magazine, which I want to remind you, is owned by Mark Benioff, who also owns Salesforce, who has a 6-year agreement with Walt Disney Studios. Salesforce and Disney Studios content join forces to help accelerate production with new technology.
Yeah, didn't Time Magazine name Galaxy's Edge like one of the 7 wonders of the world or some craziness?
Yeah, and then every time Bob Iger has some kind of PR when he came back, oh, Bob Iger's the bestest ever, guys. I'm going to show you other examples. They bring up Yale's Business College or something as a graph without explanation, a couple of graph explanations. And when you look at that, it's all this Time Magazine stuff. I'll show you about that in a minute. But before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You get woohoo if you do. Woohoo!
So you're going to have to lead me through this because I did not read this article, but they're definitely doing some major damage control before that vote next week.
Well, I also want to point out before we even talk about that, Bob Iger's not the one being replaced right now. I mean, they're going to have to have a successor, which I bring up.
Yeah.
But he's not the one up for replacement at this point in time. And yet they're running with another article acting like, well, we were questioning Bob Iger. Well, Bob Iger's choices led Disney to where it is now. And they're going to try to argue that's not the case. But we're going to argue in the opposite, that it is, in fact, the case. When I saw this last night, I about fell out of my chair. And I was on Twitter. And I was like, are you kidding me about some of these claims? So we're going to look at this. So this article is from a couple of people it was from the 25th on Time Magazine. And again, Time Magazine is notorious for doing Bob Iger puff pieces.
Yes.
And they're talking about, as Disney closely watches proxy fight barrels towards the finish line with the shareholders casting their votes on April 3rd, critics of Bob Iger have been launched a fuselage of attacks, criticizing Iger's track record and his plans for turning around Disney. Well, I'm going to stop you there, Jeff and Steve. Here's the thing. I was criticizing Bob Iger before the proxy battle for the same reasons I'm going to bring up today, because they're the same issues that people have had since before this, that you're just now paying attention to because you're trying to do this article. First of all, again, Bob Iger is not the one who's trying to be replaced. No matter how much you try to spin that narrative, it is not the truth. So ding one against you there. 2, the problems that people brought up about him for years are still valid, even if you say they're not. And we're going to look at your bullshit myths, okay?
Yeah.
Myth 1. Disney stock has languished under Bob Iger's leadership. The facts clearly show that Disney stock has significantly outperformed virtually all its pure-play media entertainment peers during both of Iger's stints as CEO. Disney's 579% total shareholder returns during Iger's first term as CEO in 15 years. 15 years to get that. Far outpaced the key rivals of Warner Brothers and Fox. But during that same time frame, okay? But let's look at this. Where is it coming into play now? It's coming into play now because Disney stock has been a shit show.
Yeah, I mean, didn't they have their record worst year was it like a year ago or something like that?
Yeah, so here I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
Bob Chapek took over around March. And it was already on decline. It was already dropping.
Well, pandemic. People were like, well, they're going to close the park. So yeah.
Around in here, when it's already in a decline, Bob Chapek came in, okay? Mm-hmm. And that was about $102 a share. And then by 2021, it was $197.16 a share, the highest it's been ever.
Yeah, so they're not mentioning that. They could very easily defend Bob Chapek and say, well, under Bob Chapek, Disney had its highest stock price ever.
Right, and they had this the whole way up. That was in a year after he was there, basically. And it stayed high. It didn't start declining below $170 until it was staying there until October 22nd, 2021. Yep. And then it started going down. And that's also when everybody started going back to work and things started going back to normal. And it was still declining. And you get over here where they bring in November, where they bring Bob Iger back, and it's still at like it went under $100, and it was like $90 some, and they brought it back. Okay, yeah. Under Bob Iger, it stayed. The highest point until recently was $110. It has stayed down. It went to the lowest point, which was under $80 like last fall.
Yeah, it's
All
insane.
right. October 27th, it dropped below $80 a share. And even now, it's only $115 a share, as opposed to where it stayed when Bob Chapek was there. I'm not saying Bob Chapek did everything right, but I'm saying this whole narrative is a bunch of bullshit.
Most of the massive missteps, the massive misfires at the box office, those were greenlit under Iger's.
But we're going to get to that myth.
Okay.
That's a myth.
Okay.
That's a myth.
Because it only takes 6 months to make a movie, right?
Right. That's a myth. I'm getting there. So the critics point out the company's stock has fallen 40% from previous peak levels in 2021. And knowing the fact that Bob Chapek, not Iger, was CEO in 2021 when it was $200 a share. So wait, it's when the stock went really high, it was because of stuff Iger did. But when the shit rolled downhill and it dropped really low because of stuff Iger did, that's all Chapek's fault, right? Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Myth number 2, Bob Iger overpaid for major Disney acquisitions, okay? And this is great. There's zero financial evidence to suggest this is true, but a careful analysis of the facts we're not going to link to other than this Yale College of Management.
Okay.
Okay. Despite persistent overpaid criticism, all 4 of Bob Iger's transformative acquisitions at Disney have been huge successes. Says this graph from Yale School of Management that they don't, really give you much for. And then you go look up this, Bob Iger, Yale School of Management. Well, here, Bob Iger outsmarting Ron DeSantis is a masterclass. Yale School of Management.
I remember that
one. The misdirected anger of Bob Iger risks misleading accusations. Yale School of Management. The Wizard versus the Illusionist. Bob Iger faces another challenge as ex-Disney employees. Yale School of Management, Time Magazine. And so on and so on. Oh my
God, it's
Nelson Peltz, the Yale School of Management.
Is that where he went to school?
I don't know. I'm just saying it's awfully weird. Yale School of Management's like his own personal PR thing, generating graphs. Okay, graph after graph. Now look, I think that they did make money with Marvel. They did make money with Pixar. I think they got their money back from Lucasfilm. But the numbers they're pulling out of here on this graph are the ones that Disney presented without any other evidentiary support other than they said so. So you just made a graph with that information because they said it was true.
Well, okay. So everybody else, and I want to go down the list here. We have Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Fox, right?
They made the money back in the first year from Fox, they said.
But look at the columns. Every other column except for Fox, direct revenue reaped, direct revenue reaped, direct revenue reaped, and then you get the Fox sum of the parts valuation within a year. So I think they're rolling that probably into Hulu or something. And because nothing that Fox had was worth $71 billion.
They immediately said that the people keep saying that. The most controversial, Iger purchased 21st Century Fox from Rupert Murdoch. And although critics continue to argue Iger overpaid.
He absolutely did.
And while it's still early, it's been, 6 years? This critique does not stack up the basic math. Where's your basic math? Please show me what your basic math is. You're saying there's basic math here, but all I'm seeing is a graph from Yale School of Management with no quantitative anything to explain the basic math.
So you buy a house for $200,000 and immediately after you buy it, it's only worth $75,000. Well, basic math says that it was a good deal.
Yes. Well, they're saying that the deal cost Disney significantly less than $71 billion, closer to $45 billion when it's all said and done. Since Disney immediately divested several assets of its peak valuation, they still had to pay the $77 billion. Yes, they did sell some off. Yeah. They did. That is true. But it's still not like the win they keep saying it is. Actually, it was funny. I searched it here. It's just no. Sorry, no. The only thing they got out of it that might be worth it is Avatar.
But they already kind of had Avatar, because they already had a relationship. Yes. They already had a relationship with them, and they're like, "Oh, well, we had to have Fox so we could have, the original version of Episode 4 of Star Wars. We had to have Fox so we could have Aliens and Predators." I'm like, these franchises are dead franchises. I mean, you've killed Star Wars, so it doesn't matter if you've got the original version of Star Wars or not. You've killed the franchise,
right?
And I'm sorry, Aliens, Predator, they haven't been hot in decades.
They keep saying some of the parts, and they're breaking it down here. Well, they sold some parts off. Okay, so they still spent 40-some billion. Okay, what's worth 40-some billion that they bought? Where they made that 40-some billion dollars back?
They're trying to say because of equity in Hulu, Hotstar, National Geographic. National Geographic is failing. Hotstar, are they still like, what's going on with that deal? I don't know.
Hotstar, they did sign an agreement, but basically somebody else is taking over the majority stake, and then Disney's along for the ride, so they can claim their subscribers as from the other person as theirs.
I'm just trying to figure out what the benefit of this was. I mean, this is one of my big sticking points because I'm like, you spent $71 billion to get Fox. You've either torched, sold off, or wasted the Fox IP anyway, or it wasn't worth much. You gave $71 billion to your competitor, Rupert Murdoch, who took $500 million and went and started Tubi, or bought Tubi, and is making money on it because Tubi was profitable pretty much right out of the gate. You could have taken a fraction of that money and bought another streaming platform. You did not have to buy Disney Plus. You could have repurposed Hulu as part of Disney. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then what's going to happen is it's going to be flush even, because even if they bought Hulu, okay, that takes Comcast out of the picture. Well, Comcast has Peacock. They don't even need Hulu. Like, and then you're talking, you might absorb Hulu into Disney Plus or vice versa. So what exactly did you get?
Yeah.
Nothing.
No. Bob Iger has lost his magic touch on movie making.
Yes.
Critics point to the fact that Disney has lost money on its last 5 movies, but each of those money-losing films were either greenlit or largely produced under Bob Chapek. But that's not true.
That's actually not true. These movies are greenlit years before they enter the pipeline. In fact, a lot of those movies that came out under Chapek's watch were pushed back because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. A lot of these movies, because of especially animation, the movies are greenlit years before they hit theaters.
Yeah, so we're going to these, in fact, during Chapek's entire run as tenure as CEO, not a single Disney movie released under his watch crossed $1 billion in gross box office revenues. Yes, that was also the pandemic, and most films didn't cross $1 billion in box office revenues, if you're being fair and comparing apples to apples.
Oh, yeah.
But high budget misses. Black Widow, it came out during the pandemic. It would have been greenlit under Bob Iger. Encanto was greenlit in 2016. Who was in charge? Oh, right, Bob Iger.
Yes.
Who else? Thor: Love and Thunder. Thor: Love and Thunder was greenlit it was started in 2019 under Bob Iger. Pinocchio, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Those I'm pretty sure were greenlit under Bob Iger. I on Twitter was pointing out, here are some of the different ones I found. The ones that have not done well recently. The Marvels. Production began in 2019, 2020. Bob Iger. Ant-Man 3, 2019. Disney's Wish was started in 2018, but it wasn't announced until a few years later. But it was, if you look into it, started in 2018. Haunted Mansion was announced in 2020, but was already in the works. Let me see. Okay, I mentioned Wish twice. Lightyear started in 2017 or 2018. Strange World started in 2017. Elemental was early 2020. The Eternals was greenlit in 2018. Little Mermaid was 2017 for the live action version. And She-Hulk was 2019. And Bob Iger was the one who greenlit and set the stuff up for those. All of them.
Yep.
That was all Iger.
Yep.
So would you like to take a second crack at this one?
Well, I think this is going to come back to bite him in the ass, because if Peltz and Rizzullo get on the board, and if they push the oversight that they were talking about in the Triumph paper, they might be like, hey, the CEO, he's the one that signed off on all these big budget disasters.
Well, yeah, and they're saying, right before he left, a bunch of movies crossed the $1 billion mark. Yeah, a lot of them were Marvel films, but they were characters people wanted. They were the end game. There was the end game movie and all that kind of stuff.
I think the thing with Bob Iger is I don't think he's actually paying attention to what his divisions are doing. I think he's too busy looking for the next shiny thing to buy, that he's not paying attention to what Marvel, their specific plans are, Star Wars specific plans. I think that he just kind of, is rolling with the people that came with these companies that he acquired, and he's like, well, it's been working, so we'll just let them do whatever they want to do.
But that ties into the other thing. They're like, but the acquisitions paid off. It's like we've seen time and time again when you're looking into stuff recently, when the plans that came with the acquisition ran out, and Disney had to make up their own plans to move forward. That's when you saw problems. Like when the plans came with Pixar, it was great until Lasseter was gone.
Yes.
And then they had to come up with their own ideas. Now Pixar is going down the toilet.
Yep.
But then again, to be fair, Iger and Chapek too sacrificed Pixar for Disney Plus, which Disney Plus was Bob Iger's idea. I want to point that out as well.
That was, yeah.
You have Marvel, and as soon as the 10-year plan ran out and they had to make up their new plan, the MCU happened, and look what happened. A lot of these movies that have been failing for Marvel have been Phase 4 and onward. And that was when they had to make up their own plan. Star Wars, well, other than Rogue One, they've done fucked up that whole thing.
Well, they were given a plan and they tossed it out. George Lucas had a treatment for 7, 8, and 9, and they're like, nope, we don't want it.
They gave it a treatment. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, one could argue their acquisitions were only as good as the original plans and team that were in play. That when they had to come up with their own plans, they are notoriously poor at managing things they buy. And that's what happened. Next myth, Bob Iger is failing to turn around Disney. Although the stock is up 27% since Iger returned in 2020, I again want to point out, when Iger returned in 2020 or 2022, when he returned in 2022, it was at $91.
Yeah.
And under Iger, it has been at the same or below for the majority of the time he's been back.
I think what happened was people got excited. They thought that he was actually going to turn things around, and immediately he just started laying people off. It was obvious that they weren't going to invest more in the parks like they said they were going to. The movie slate is underwhelming. Nothing has changed.
Well, and I think the reason the stock's going up now, it could be a couple things. It could either be because they like what Bob Iger is saying, but another reason, which I think is more likely, is that the stock went up when proxy battles got announced and pushback came. And it could be people are buying the stock because they know something's going to change one way or the other. Either people are going to get on the board that are going to make change, or Bob Iger is going to have to make change. And he made some of these announcements he made because they're going to hold his feet to the fire otherwise. But either way, change is going to happen. And that's why you see the stock increase. It's not because of him directly. God, you're so full of shit, it hurts. They're talking about just, about Starbucks stock was down 50%. And is this about pelts? Iger's performance for the second run as CEO already far exceeds peers who returned as CEO at Starbucks. What the, and Dell.
What does that have to
and
do?
Steve Jobs. Yeah. Okay. The Disney board is unduly differential to Bob Iger and then dropping the ball on leadership succession. Yeah. Because they haven't done shit about it until recently. And even if they were working on it, they deliberately were withholding information on it until they got cornered about it.
There's something going on with that. I still think that Bob Iger doesn't have any plans on leaving. And I think the reason he's freaking out is Peltz and Rizzullo will come in. They'll be like, okay, so who's your successor, Bob? Bob, you're leaving, right, Bob? You're leaving, right, Bob? And he's going to be like, no, absolute power, unlimited power.
Yeah, that's basically what's going on. We heard nothing about succession. People kept asking flat out about succession plans. And what happened? Where's the succession plans, Bob? Oh, wait, they're giving Bob 2 more years? He was supposed to be out of there by next year. Yeah, but now he's getting 2 more years.
Yeah, they'll give him another 2 years. And then another 2 years. Another 2 years.
Succession's taking longer. It shouldn't take this long. And the reason that Chapek probably failed last time is because Bob Iger deliberately didn't like that he was cut out. According to the reports, he literally had a hissy fit because the new CEO wanted to take a meeting with the CFO and he wasn't involved when he wasn't CEO anymore.
He wasn't the CEO. It wasn't his place.
Because Chapek wouldn't run things the way he wanted to be run, he would deliberately withhold help. And it was an ego move. He kept a shower and wouldn't give him the office. I mean, how petty are we getting here over this whole thing? And they're like, well, we want to make sure it's the right person this time so it works. It's not going to work because Iger's going to still think he's in charge. He's going to pick somebody he thinks he can control, who's going to come to him all the time, and he's going to make all the call, all the shots. Yes. They're like a puppet. That's what he wants. And the 4 people that are running it for it now are the same people that, you would expect them to be from inside the company that he can control.
Yeah, the thing about it is I don't think Iger ever left office. I think Iger had Chapek in.
No, he was like consulting and stuff. He never did leave.
He wanted to, and then when it became clear that Chapek had ideas of his own, and then he was no longer a useful idiot, then he had to go. Mm-hmm.
Well, I like the next part, guys. This is one of my favorite parts in the whole article. Iger surprised the media world by attracting back the team 2 past CEO candidates, Tom Staggs, the former CEO of Disney Parks and Resorts, as well as COO of Disney, and Kevin Mayer, who led Walt Disney's direct-to-consumer and international businesses. Okay, what's funny to me is both those guys quit because they didn't get to be CEO, right?
Yeah.
Now, what's funny to me is that Disney has been putting all this shade at Jay Rizzullo. He's just a man that's mad because he didn't get the CEO position and quit. So did these 2.
Yeah, he's out of touch. He's washed up. Staggs has been gone from the company for years.
Yeah, and I think he was gone before He gone before? Yeah.
Mayer left right after he went to TikTok or whatever. Right
Mayer
after
thought he was going to be
Disney
CEO when they named Chapek, and that's what happened there. But Staggs was a COO. I thought COO wasn't good enough because so was Rizzullo.
Yeah.
So which one is it, Iger and Disney? I mean, either you're still qualified and this is a win, or they're not that, leaving because you didn't get to be CEO and having a little hissy fit, as you would like to kind of describe it as, makes you not relevant anymore and your opinion should not matter. Yet I'm sure you paid a shit ton of money for these guys to be consultants for you.
Yeah, I'm sure if Jay Rizzullo wasn't a threat, that they would pay to have him come in and consult too.
Right. So I just thought this entire article was hilarious. And I wanted to take a moment to dissect the bullshit. And I point out again that Iger is not. We've shown these 5 myths about Iger's track record and plans for resurrecting Disney are not grounded in factual reality. Neither is the fact that you're trying to make it sound like Iger's the one being put up for, reappointment. That's not what's going on. He's not the one who's going to be out. Where's your article describing what, the 2 board members they're actually targeting, where their reasons for being there are, what they've done? Because you're running with the idea that Iger's the one getting kicked, and he's not the one being kicked out. He's not up for being removed. That's not what's going on at all.
There's something else going on. He's basically afraid of losing control, losing power, and I think his long game is either, again, putting a meat puppet in or not leaving.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they keep running with these bullshit. They're talking about we're gonna show how these things aren't true. Well, you lead right with initially with Iger's lies about Iger because they're trying to replace him. That's not true right from your get go. Your whole point of this article and the reason you're doing it isn't even valid or true.
Yep.
But you're gonna tell everybody else how to be honest. Okay. So during that time, as you keep writing, you and the Yale School of Management have quite the little gig going on, don't you? Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah, we're going to wrap this up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.